So this is the second video on the paragraph by Kierkegaard. And there was a comment questioning what the philosopher might have meant by the word passion. And I don't pretend to know, but maybe we can find a hint of an answer in the same paragraph. That's what this video will be about. Now, in the middle of that paragraph I read in the preceding video, there's this little sentence. This instant is the moment of passion. So let's try to linguistically reverse engineer this instant that Kierkegaard is saying, or is predicating, if we want to speak in fancy philosophical jargon, is predicating as the moment of passion. Well, first things first. From my experience in doing philosophy, the game, and it is a game has rules, a game has stipulations, a game has a time limit, and a game isn't everything. Those are fundamental characteristics of games. But one of the rules of the philosophical game, in my opinion, is the words are chess pieces or checker pieces or X's and O's of a tic-tac-toe board. They're there sort of by accident, and the author is using them in a way that is by definition non-conventional. If it was conventional, then it would be a report, or it would be a story. As a story, it might be amenable to a tradition that other people can rally around and participate in. If it was a report, it would be amenable to something like a scientific paper or a serious discussion about the facts of the matter, such as you would find in a courtroom or in a serious discussion at the dinner table amongst family members about something that has to be brought up and can't be swept under the rug any longer. These aspects of language belong in their respective compartments. But philosophy is set apart, or it's marked by its being, another fancy word, here we go, incommodious. That is, it doesn't accommodate itself well to either domain. In fact, if you find it in any of those subcompartments in either domain, that usually is indicative of there being a problem at the level of what we think we're doing here. So for example, if in a courtroom, a big problem is being solved, whether or not someone should spend life in prison for such and such actions taken or not taken. If the judge, or I suppose the prosecuting attorney, either one, were to make it known that this whole enterprise, this whole procession of the rules of the courtroom and how things are going and when they'll be done and when and how a decision will be reached, all of these rules are sort of gameplay for this system they're trying to work out in their head, between their ears. And they're sort of kicking around the can of what Wittgenstein said about the picture of the world and what those German idealists were after, and talking about the absolute and all the relativity down here that isn't absolute. And this person who has some facts against him, that's, fodder for me putting some skin in the game to figure out how much of Wittgenstein I want to support and how much of the German idealists I want to not support. The moment you hear that, or the moment if you were the person sitting in defense, you would be shaking as if you were struck by lightning, because heretofore you thought you were in a courtroom. Now you find out you're in a philosopher's arena, and your life is on the line. Your life is on the line for somebody else's semantic game. That would be terrifying. So philosophy doesn't belong in the courtroom, nor does it belong at the kitchen table, because it has this quality of being beside the point. So how's that for an ostensive definition of the game of philosophy so far? Philosophy attempts, when it's running well, always to be beside the point. Now, we might ask, why is it beneficial in some cases to be beside the point? Why not just go straight for the point? Well, what is the benefit of having that diameter from your current philosophical position to the core of an issue, the core of the matter, the thing that everybody by convention thinks they know what is going on? That's another question. It's a question of justifying philosophy itself. And so good philosophers, or at least the philosophers that I think are in a class with Kierkegaard, one of the things that sets them apart, qua philosopher, is not only do they give you their way to be beside the point, but they justify their peculiar way of creating that distance between themselves and convention or conventional reality. Now, taken to an extreme, I think this is highly isolating and a vice, potentially a vice of pride, because the longer one spends in a philosophical game, the less one is spending their time in a culture, in a group, among consensus reality, we would say, amongst people in civilization, right? You have the myth of the philosopher going up on the mountain and staying there until they come down with some platitude that might abstractly benefit the many. These are caricatures of that diameter being untethered. This instant is the moment of passion. 3 things in that sentence: instant, moment, and passion. And I would argue that those 3 things are in a logical relationship, one to the other, by means of what I have just outlined as the difference between the point and that which is beside the point, creating a diameter of distance for someone to use convention unconventionally, to use language in a way that we're not accustomed to hearing it, leaving open the question of why they're doing that and whether or not it's a good. So passion. Conventionally, we have in our minds sticky concepts of what passion means. But now Kierkegaard is qualifying that conventional usage by saying moment. So now we're asked or invited to take our certain exclamation and bend it to an unknowing question mark with reference to passion. Because now we're no longer talking about absolute passion. We're talking about the moment of passion. Differentiated from what? Other moments of passion? General passion? How is this specified? How far from the point is it? Well, the third part of that sentence, the subject, this instant is the moment of passion. So a moment of passion becomes instantiated. It's a Latin word, instant, in the stand, as it were, propped up. In that moment of being propped up, generated by this conventional word, this conventional understanding of something known as passion. And what is this instant? Well, that'll be in the next video. But I think in general, for this video, we saw how philosophy breaks apart convention, but this can go too far. And even if it doesn't go far enough, if it doesn't justify its going outside the point, then it will seem arbitrary to no point. Thank you. How do I stop?